Reverend Dr. Henry Lee Bates, and we're going to go back this week to Rev Ike Secrets for Health, Happiness, and Prosperity for You. Rev Ike Secrets for Health, Happiness, and Prosperity for You. And you can find this book on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And we're going to Chapter 6. You deserve God's goodness. Well, imagine what happens when we don't believe this. You deserve God's goodness. We see examples and we see people in the news all the time that don't believe that they deserve God's goodness, because no one hates anyone else that loves themselves. No one hates anyone else that feels deserving of the good themselves. No one resents other people as long as when they feel upright within themselves or they feel right about themselves. So Reverend Ike's message is you deserve God's goodness. And he quotes the Gospel of Matthew 5:20, "For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven." Now, who were the scribes and the Pharisees? They were the religious people. They were the religious people of his time. Those were the people, Jesus said, "You vile and ruthless race, you believe in every letter of the law," that is the man-made religious laws, the dogma, the religious dogma, "but you have no love in your heart." That's what he said. So if our righteousness, that is, our right thinking, our intellectual contemplations aren't any greater than the scribes and the Pharisees, those who hold on to primitive ideas of man-made religious dogma, then he says, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. And where does he say that is? He says the kingdom of heaven is within you, not low here or low there, and the kingdom of heaven is at hand. In other words, as long as we hold on to old judgments and harsh thoughts about others and hate about others, that we will never see through that veil that separates us from the realization that the kingdom of heaven is within us and the kingdom of heaven is at hand. We won't see it. It just won't happen. So he tells us it is not enough in life to live morally and ethically. You must also have the proper self-awareness to enjoy the riches of the kingdom of heaven. Sometimes in preaching about Brother Job, the fundamentalist minister uses the subject, why do the righteous suffer? In other words, why do seemingly good people suffer? Brother Job's children were taken away, his health was taken away, and his wealth was taken away. Even his wife said to him, you might as well curse God and die. Why did all these things happen to Job, a righteous man? But I asked you, was Job righteous or religious? I want to go into this in this lesson because sometimes some of you good people remind me of Brother Job. Can the morally straight suffer? I've said this before and it bears repeating here. You can be morally straight and mentally crooked and you will still suffer. You can be morally and ethically straight and correct, but if you do not know how to positively relate to your emotions and the processes of your mind, you will suffer. And this is what happened to Job. Job said, the thing I greatly feared has come upon me. That's from Job 3:25 from the Old Testament of the Holy Bible. And that is exactly what got Job, the thing. He didn't even know what the thing was. Just like some of you don't know why you feel so bad, but you go around afraid of what might happen. You go around with your feelings dragging in the dirt. Then you go to a psychiatrist for 10 years and pay him $18,000, and you still don't know why you feel so bad, and your psychiatrist doesn't either. It is not enough in life to live morally and ethically straight. You must also have the correct self-awareness. You must know yourself. You have to learn how to lift up your feelings yourself, to lift up your emotions. You have to learn to control your feelings and your emotions yourself. You have to learn to go inside yourself and develop a positive self-image. Now, Reverend Ike is telling us something very important. He's actually telling us more than what these words imply. When Job said, the thing I greatly feared has come upon me, he's telling us just as the mastermind Jesus did, that it's done unto you as you believe. So as we believe in negative things, as we believe that people are against us, as we believe in lack of limitation, as we believe in poverty and sickness and illness, those things can come upon us because we open them up in our mind and make ourselves available to them. So this is the law of mind. This is the law of mind. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord is the law. It's the love and the law of God. So do we use the love part and forget the law, or do we use the law part and forget the love? We cannot do that. We cannot do that. Otherwise, we will end up experiencing what Job did. The people asked Creflo Dollar, the minister of, I think he's in Georgia. He also has a ministry in New York City. They asked Creflo Dollar, it's a huge ministry, why do bad things happen to good people? Why do bad things happen to good people, Creflo? Why do bad things happen to good people? And he said, because the good people aren't good all the time. Because the good people aren't good all the time. Because it's in our thought world, in the images and the thoughts that go through our mind, the things we think about, the ideas that we entertain in our mind, that we create our life experiences, that we create those things that come into our experience because we thought them into being. It is done unto you as you believe, as you take in the ideas of good and more good, joy and more joy, happiness and more happiness, health and better, excellent health, prosperity and great wealth. As you take those things into your mind, then you shall start experiencing greater things. So let's go back to Reverend Ike. Remember, we're on chapter 6 of his book, Rev Ike Secrets for Health, Happiness, and Prosperity for You. Rev Ike Secrets for Health and Happiness and Success and Prosperity for You. So Rev Ike is telling us to get control of our mind. Start realizing that we have the power within us. We have the power to discover the kingdom of heaven within us, just as Jesus told us, and to realize the kingdom of heaven is at hand, just as Jesus told us. So from chapter 6, you deserve God's goodness, we go to alcohol and drugs are not working techniques. Reverend Ike writes, it was my pleasure to share my techniques with a psychiatrist at the Harvard Medical School Department of Psychiatry in Boston some years ago. I'll never forget that session. I had all of those big, important, expensive doctors of psychiatry right at my fingertips. They were casing me out, and I was casing them out. I have a number of friends who are psychiatrists, and it always feels like a game of cat and mouse when I'm around them because I know they are casing me out. But when I started explaining the philosophy of this ministry, the positive self-image psychology that we teach, they all sat up and listened, and it didn't cost them $1,000. One of my friends, a psychiatrist, told me that at their last psychiatric convention, psychiatrists drank more liquor than any convention in the history of that hotel. I won't tell you what city and what hotel, but I will tell you emphatically that liquor and drugs are not techniques that work. You should not have to depend upon alcohol or drugs or anything outside of you to give you a high, They won't get rid of the thing, that thing that's bugging you. When you do depend upon these things to give you a high, you haven't found the real thing yet. You can find the real thing through the presence and power of God within you, and this is the highest of highs. It isn't enough to be moral and ethical. It isn't enough just to be a good person, to be moral and to be ethical. It isn't enough to consider yourself righteous or religious. You must have a proper self-identity. You must believe that you deserve God's goodness. Jesus said, except your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. That's from the Gospel of Matthew 5:20. This even answers the question that Job asked. Why do the righteous suffer? Because they don't believe that they deserve God's goodness. They ask for God's goodness in their prayers, but they don't believe they deserve it. If you don't believe you deserve God's goodness, what do you believe then? Are you believing you deserve the opposite of good? If you are, maybe that is why you are getting it. Maybe that is why you are getting it. So many times people allow themselves to let fear and anxiety rule their mental household. You know, as you sow, so shall you reap. What are we sowing into our mental household today? What thoughts are we sowing into our mind today? What ideas are we holding on to today? What are the things that we believe today? What are the things that we're bringing into the consciousness today? You know, this morning I had a couple of cousins spread a message on Facebook, and they didn't realize in their innocence and their lack of taking the time to truly investigate what they were posting, all the vile and vicious thoughts that were attached to that post in the comments section. And so I messaged them on Facebook and said, are you aware? Are you aware of what you're associating yourself with? Are you aware of what you're associating yourself with? Because when we allow people to talk racist thoughts, when we allow people to indulge in their homophobic thoughts, in their anti-Semitic thoughts, in their anti-Christian thoughts, in their anti-Jesus thoughts, when we allow people to involve us in their nonsense, then we become part of it. We become associated with it. So don't let yourself become associated with the garbage in the world. Don't let yourself become associated with those who want to hold people back from realizing the goodness of God. Everyone deserves God's goodness. We are all part of this infinite life, this infinite spirit, this infinite intelligence, this infinite power. None of us are individuals. We are infinite individualizations of the power and the intelligence and the spirit that reigns supreme throughout this universes and the universes beyond. Life is not a fairy tale. Our relationship to God is not a joke. Anyone who understands the analogy of a wave to the ocean realizes that without the ocean there is no life in the wave. Without this presence, this power, this intelligence, this spirit, there is no life to us. Yes, our spirit will go on, but this body will cease to be if we focus on the negative, focus on the hateful, focus on that which takes the good away from other people. Nothing can come to you unless you draw it to you, and we don't draw it to us by listening to the nonsense, to the troublemakers, to the troubled people. And people don't go around thinking negative thoughts or hating other people unless they're troubled themselves. We saw that in this heinous crime or this heinous tragedy in Orlando, Florida this weekend. This man was a troubled man. His ex-wife said he was suffering from mental illness. So we know that this is the case almost of everyone. God loves us. That love will pour through us if we let it. God loves us, and God sees us as deserving. God sees us as being intelligent, and powerful in our faith, radiant in our spirit. We must agree with that. We must agree with that. Let's go back to Rev Ike. He said, many times things happen to good religious people and people who say they are righteous and they don't understand why. They say, now why would this happen? Why would this person do me out of this? Why do these things happen to me? If somebody is always doing you out of something, watch out. It means that somewhere in your subconscious psychology, there is some kind of thought or some kind of negative belief. It could be the belief that you deserve it, that you're not deserving. It could be that belief. Nothing can come to you unless you believe you deserve it, and nothing can go from you unless you believe you don't deserve it. You are not going to get anything that you don't really believe you deserve, and if you do appear to get something that you really don't think you deserve, you think it's too good for you, don't worry, it will slip away. Don't worry, it will slip away. Somebody else will come along and take it off your hands. So it is very important that you think you deserve the best. Your belief about yourself should be based upon your knowledge of who and what you are in God and who and what God is in you. Your belief about yourself must be based upon spiritual reality, not the physical reality, not the worldly concepts of mankind. You deserve the best because you are a part of God, an expression of God, an individualization of the infinite. Say to yourself, I deserve the best because I am in God of God. I am a part of God. And when you pray, believe this. Believe you deserve all of God's goodness. Don't just say empty words. Affirm to yourself, I deserve the best because I am a part of God. I don't deserve the best because I'm better than anybody else. I deserve the best because I am a part of God, and God's lovingness and givingness is a part of me, and I deserve all of God's goodness. Just as the mastermind Jesus said, it is the Father's good pleasure to give to you. It is the Father's good pleasure to give to you, but we must learn to accept the gift. We must learn to accept it. How many times do people go around thinking that life is a test, that somehow there's benefits in struggle, that somehow if we struggle we're more righteous than those who get things easy? It is the Father's good pleasure to give to you. Stop the struggle. Stop fighting and warring against things. Stop being a prayer warrior and start affirming right now, right where you are, that God takes great pleasure in giving to me the ideas that will prosper me, opening the doors of opportunity that will bring success to me, that brings that right idea that heals me, prospers me, and blesses me, gives me radiant health and happiness and joy, and a feeling of being part of life in a greater way that draws into my heart, my mind, and my soul a greater enthusiasm for life. Bring that into your mind. Bring it into your mind. So let's go to these quotes from Rev Ike. He puts these quotes at the end of every chapter. Once again, this is taken from his book, Rev Ike Secrets for Health, Happiness, and Prosperity for You. And you can buy this book on BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. He writes, we must move from the problem state of consciousness to the answer state of consciousness. That's from Rev Ike. The two great movers of the human mind are the desire for good and the fear of evil. That's from Samuel Jackson. And Ibid, I guess Ibid was a philosopher. Law is intelligence whose natural function it is to command right conduct and forbid wrongdoing. And Reverend Ike gives us this treatment. I make it my business to think right, feel right, and talk right. Let's say that out loud. Let's say it out loud to ourselves. I make it my business to think right, feel right, and talk right. Say it out loud if you can. I make it my business to think right, feel right, and talk right. I want only good for myself and everyone else because I know I am a part of God, in God, of God. I know that I deserve the best. I see myself as God sees me. I see myself as a divine expression of the God presence within me. These are the thoughts that I lift up in my consciousness, and these thoughts help uplift me and everyone in my experience. And I know and I declare and I believe that that which I have greatly loved will come upon me. Will manifest in my experience as good and more good and ever increasing good. and I let it be so, and I know it can be so, and it will be so, and shall be so, and so it is. Amen.